order, please. Have a motion to went to regular business meeting, please. By Flo.
Second.
I'm sorry, I missed the second. Debbie, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the moment of silence. Mike, would you lead us, please? I'm sorry.
A couple.
I know.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I have a motion for the approval of the board agenda, please.
I'll do it.
Moved by Bill Harris, second by Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. First, presentations, Summer School Historical PJ Walk, Mr. Kelly Decker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for having me.
You are.
We do have PowerPoint, so you can look at the PowerPoint. You don't really necessarily have to look at me. I know on live I asked it'll be up tomorrow when you're watching YouTube. I want to thank Annie for inviting me here. My name is Kelly Decker. I teach at the Port Jervis Middle School. I teach American history. This will be my 11th year teaching. Doesn't seem like it's possible that it's been that long, but I wanted to share, well, Annie asked me to share with you this walking tour that I've been given for the last few years. Actually, Trish Womack and I started it. She, of course, retired a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and so I continued it on. We do have smaller groups. This week actually is the second of the 2 weeks that I give the walking tour, and I only have 2 kids because there were some issues, I guess, with some kids in summer school, and then there were other programs that kind of overlapped that had to be made up this week. So, but the 2 kids that are walking this week are having a great time, and so I want to share a little bit with you how our day goes. Let's see. All right, Evan, what am I doing wrong? There we go. So the area that we live in. So I start right over here by the concession stand. And you know what? Just wave to me if I'm going too long because I can absolutely get winded. Right? So the area over by the concession stand, I basically tell them, you have to imagine nothing here. It's all old forest. What old forest is there's no undergrowth. You could see through the trees for miles, and that's what the Native Americans did. They used this area to grow crops. Basically, there were no houses here, there were no settlements here for the Munsee Native Americans. They were part of the Lenni Lenapes, also called part of the Delaware tribe. And so there would be travelers that would come through here, pick up the crops, and then get on the boats and take them down the Delaware and Never Sink River. From there, we started to see Europeans coming through. So as you can see, let me go back here. That's where you actually skipped over a part. Yeah, you think I need glasses? Huh? So anyway, he's taking care of it. I just need to be on that first slide at the bottom. There you go, right there. All right, so there were 7 settler families that came in here. You probably know names. There were actually 3 Swartout families. There was a Cuddeback family, which Cuddeback was spelled totally different. There was a Ties family. There was a Jameson family. And of course, everybody knows because you hear it a lot is Gamar. And the Gamar family. And actually, they were the first 7 settlers in the area, but they were mostly up where Cuddebackville is today. How they made their way is there was actually what you know of as 209 Route 6 today was a path. It was a path that the Native Americans used. it slowly started to build when they found that there was copper mines in Pennsylvania and in New Jersey. So what they did is they created this road, the Europeans created this road on this old path, and that became the Old Mine Road. The Old Mine Road is the oldest road in America, goes right by our current day middle school and actually right here. So we have the oldest road that goes in front of our schools. So what we were called, the area was called Minnesink, and it was after the way the Europeans tried to describe the Native Americans. We had an upper neighborhood, which was current day Cutterbackville, Westbrookville, Oakland Valley, and the upper part of Huguenot. And then the lower neighborhood was lower part of Huguenot, Port Jervis, and a little bit of Sparrowbush was called the upper and lower neighborhoods. Travelers came through here, and we started to have settlers. So Titsor was the very first settler that came here. He actually had to escape the Albany area, otherwise they were going to kill him for, I can go on to tell you the whole reasons why. But he ended up settling here. He was the first blacksmith, almost a little bit past Van Ewengen's farm right up here. And then more people started to come, so they decided to settle in this area. And the very first mill, now what a mill is you need water. Obviously there's no power, so you need a brook or a river to power. There were a lot of brooks through here. You just don't see them because they're underground now. They've been refunneled and rechanneled. Actually, Clove Brook, which ran from basically where our city dump is today, across White Street, Kingston Avenue, down Beach Road, that is a picture of Beach Road there, was the first mill. The water would turn the stones that would crush the grain into like flour. So that was one of the first ones in the entire area. So then the first day we make our way to St. Mary's Cemetery, and we make our way to the second oldest cemetery in Orange County, which is the Mahagamok Cemetery. Some of you know that I take care of that cemetery, and I have learned so much about it. One, the first question is why are two flags flying? There's two flags flying because the top flag is our American flag, because we live in the United States of America. The second flag down, which is a red flag that has the Union Jack in the corner, is our colonial flag. The United States colonial flag is the flag that flies there. And let me tell you something, it's hard to get retros of those flags. But what I did is I put in the Indian raid because some of you might know this. We are the home of the Raiders. We used to be called the Red Raiders, and a lot of people say, well, why were we called the Red Raiders? Well, it was actually a term of endearment for Joseph Brant, whose real name was Tynadega. He was the Mohawk chief upstate New York, and his Tory Raiders who came through the area, first in October of 1778 and raided the upper neighborhood. And George Washington knew about this. And George Washington, who was fighting his own battles down in Philadelphia, had gained a new friend by the name of Casimir Pulaski. You probably heard of Pulaski Highway, Pulaski Road, Pulaski Bridge. This guy, if you ever read about him, he's kind of like a guy that has the worst case of ADD, ADHD that there ever was. He was all over the place, but he saved George Washington's life in Brandywine during the Revolutionary War. So George Washington says, I want you to go up to this Coles Fort. Coles Fort is where Mahagamok Village is today, like right on the corner across the street from TD Bank. I want you to go to Coles Fort, and I want you to sit there because Joseph Brant and his Tory Raiders are going to come back, and they're going to attack the lower neighborhood. He actually doesn't make it to Coles Fort. There's a lot of disputes back and forth. He didn't want to come here because he didn't want to sit. He wanted to be involved. But he did come into the generalized area. Anyway, he left in February of 1778. July 20th, 1779, Joseph Brant and his Tory Raiders came and killed my fifth great-grandfather and went on to try to take Major John Decker's house on Neversink Drive. Also made his way down through a grist mill that took out, when you hear the word painted aprons, he actually went into the one-room schoolhouse, which is where Shin Hollow Road and Neversink Drive come together. And the school teacher that was there was a male in a one-room schoolhouse. he sent the boys up to Greenville Mountain. He says, you guys go up to Greenville Mountain and you stay up there until somebody comes and gets you, because if you were a young boy anywhere above the age of 5, and you were considered a patriot, you were going to be scalped by the Tory Raiders. Well, they broke into that schoolhouse, and in front of the girls, they scalped the school teacher. On top of it, they took tar and they painted the Masonic symbol on their aprons, because girls wore aprons over their dresses back in school. And that's where the term painted aprons comes up, because Joseph Brant had been accused of killing young girls that were of patriot family, but he did not kill children, he did not kill girls, but he would kill men and he would kill boys that were patriot boys. Anyway, they made their way down to what is called Carpenter's Point. That's where 84 goes over the 2 rivers. There was like a little barge system, and he came up the Old Mine Road. He burned in the back corner of this graveyard, which they called, which was also a graveyard and a churchyard. And the reason it was a churchyard is because there was a church there. It was the very first church in the area. That church is today the Deer Park Reformed Church. Burned it to the ground, tried to burn coals for it, couldn't, made their way down to where Ben's Fresh is. Now you have to remember, there's not a lot of places, and we walk all this. And I take them to the corner of West Broome Street and Elizabeth, and I show them where they burned down the only inn in the area. It's like a bar, restaurant, and a place for people to stay. The people who were there, the Kuykendalls, were an older couple, and they weren't going to rebuild after this battle had happened, after their place burned down. Their son, Peter Kuykendall, decided to come back from Philadelphia and rebuild his parents' home, which is still standing today. And the people of the area were so happy with him doing that, they named the big hill with the flag on it called Point Peter after Peter Kuykendall. So then we talk about Fort Decker and go on. So that ties up most of our, first day. I won't be as long for the rest of it. The last thing I do is I take the kids through St. Mary's Cemetery and Laurel Grove Cemetery, and here's the reason why. Every single body that lies there, or whether there's ashes there, or even if there's a tombstone without a body, that's a story. Whether that story is a child that was 1 day old, or if it was an old person that died at 120. You'll never know every single person's story. So what I do is I take them around and I tell them stories of some of the people that I know that their story will never be told. And so they find that pretty fascinating. The second day, we make our way onto the canal. That's what we did today. We start right up here. I show them how the Shawangunk Mountains were the feeder system to the canal, and that the canal ran where Canal Street is today, and there's actually a part that still has tunnels underneath it, and that where the bowling alley is was a pond. And it was actually, the reason that the canal was created was because 2 brothers found anthracite coal. Anthracite coal is a really hard, dense coal. You can rub it, it won't come off on your hands, but it'll burn for a long time. And that anthracite coal was found in Honesdale, Pennsylvania, but there's no cars and there's no trucks. So the Erie Canal had just been built. So this is like 40 years after the attack of the raid during the Revolutionary War. So we kind of just slowly built. They came up with this idea to build a canal, to get anthracite coal from Honesdale to New York City. They went to speak with the engineer that built the Erie Canal. He says, listen, I'm too busy, but there's this guy over here from Rome, New York. His name is John B. Jervis. And John B. Jervis agreed to go look at the area, and he says, yes, we'll build the canal along the Shawangunk Mountains, and we'll use feeder systems like the Neversink River, the Delaware River, and the Lackawaxen River, and we'll build this canal. And by hand, German and Irish immigrants came in by the hundreds, and they started in 1825, and by 1828, the canal was up and running. Imagine that, all by hand, no machines. And so where that picture is right there is the city has about a mile worth of the canal that's still in really decent shape. It's not filled or anything, and we really wanted to start working on it. We've cleared all the trees out of it. But in this area here, where this picture is, there was a man who had a farm, which was all of West End and up on the hill, like where John's mower shop is, 4297. And so when they were building it, they said, you're cutting my land in half. I want a bridge. So they built a walking bridge for the animals and the man to be able to cross. But they also put in there a gate. Because imagine this, you have a 108-mile canal. All of a sudden you get a breach. This is called the prism, and this is the towpath. The towpath is actually fake. It's built with the stuff that was inside the prism. If the towpath gives way, where's all the water going to rush to? So ingeniously, about every 5 miles, they had a plate that was sitting at the bottom of the canal, and there was a person that would sit there and watch, and they would pull that metal gate up if they started to see the water coming down. So the gates would go up, the breach would happen, they'd rush 100 men in there, they'd fix it, and within a day it's fixed. They put the walls back down, and the canal's in operation. So till 1899, they ran that canal. But something jumped in front of them that was bigger, badder, and faster, and that was the railroad. Oh, what you see here, that is a picture of John B. Jervis on the right. He had no idea that this area was named after him. As people started to come into the canal, the center part of the canal, so you have Kingston, New York over here, you have Holmesdale here, came together. The middle part was this place now called Town of Deer Park, but this village started to grow around this, what looks like a pond there. Where the bowling alley is today was a huge area, only about 5 feet deep, where all the boats would be stored. They would be in the wintertime because there was no running the canal. They emptied the canal in the wintertime. And where they fixed all the boats. So they started to build. Some of you might remember the hotel that was there on the corner of West Main Street and Canal Street. That was the first hotel to go up that people started staying at. And the area started to become a village. Not officially yet, but they called it Port Jervis. Port for the canal, Jervis after John B. Jervis. So then, we talk a little bit about the Farnhams, because the Farnhams are the people who were the caretakers. Mr. Farnham, Samuel Farnham, ended up, he was from Ulster, which we call Kingston today, and he came down and he married a cutaback, and they had 4 children, but he was the caretaker of the canal from about as far as Ellenville all the way to the Roebling Bridge. And so they became very charitable. They bought up a lot of land. And as he passed away and the children grew up and moved away, she became very charitable, Mrs. Farnham, and donating some of the places that I'll talk about. Where you see the kids sitting, they are moved tie-offs, but you can still see where the ropes had wedged themselves into the stone where the canal boats were tied off. So, as the canal was really busy, all of a sudden, by 1832, steam engines had been created. They didn't make their way here. Actually, it took a while because of the Panic of 1837. It slowed it down. By 1838, they started up. But by 1848, we had trains running here in Port Jervis. Now, a quick story on that is the trains weren't supposed to run through Port Jervis. They were supposed to run straight up the Hudson River, over to Binghamton, into Chicago. But John B. Jervis, who was one of the designers of the train tracks for the Erie, had gone to a meeting in New York City, and they said, "Are you any part of Port Jervis?" Now, John B. Jervis is from Rome, New York. So he says, "No, I don't know anything about it." He said, "You know what? There's this place called Port Jervis. It might be named after you. Did you do the canal there?" And he says, "Yeah." So they make their way up there, and lo and behold, he decides to reroute, and he could do it because it's a diagonal shot from New York City up to Binghamton. So he says, "Oh, we don't have to go up and all the way over. We can go diagonally through." Although it ended up being more expensive because they had to build the tunnels and the bridges. So day, Day three. Day three, I want you to take a look at this. To the left is the Fowler House. You know of Fowler Street? The first actual Fowler House was a hotel and restaurant down at the end of Fowler Street and Jersey Avenue. And it sat in the location of the current day middle school, 118 East Main Street. And here's why, to me, one of the most important things was to preserve the exterior structure of that building. Now, granted, anybody that worked there, anybody that's been there, knows the whole entire inside needs to be gutted, right? And which I'm glad that the district decided that and they're putting an addition on it. But here's why. The Fowlers, Colonel Samuel Fowler actually really worked his way into bankruptcy. And it was a lot of bad investments, and he had sold the house to a partner, but the partner ended up taking it. But the bottom line is that he and his wife Henrietta, who was also the name that everybody called her was Lynette, and that's where Lynette Field comes from. And so their family tried to get the house back. They couldn't. It went for taxes, and that's where the school was able to get the property. The last picture of the mansion is the picture on the left. Now, if you look at it, the picture on the right is one end of the school. That is where the mansion sat. If you look, they look almost identical. They actually designed the school, the two ends and bookends of the school, to look like the mansion of the Fowlers that lived there. So anyway, the school was built in 1922, but of course, I want to thank Mr. Rydell because he dumped all the stuff from the time capsule on my desk, and I went through it all. I took a lot of pictures, and then I turned it over. I don't know what you guys did with it from there, but I learned a lot because I didn't realize that just like the troubles that we have today with voters, and they have to decide, you're going to see another one here in a minute, they voted it down the first time, and they had to come back and get the voters to vote on it again. Day 4, we're almost done. So we get to where the Farnhams donated. Mrs. Farnham actually donated Veterans Park, also known as Orange Square. And why? Because the Orange Blossoms, who were our fighting unit, Company F, for the Civil War, of course, for some who don't know, there were only ever 2 battles in the north of the Civil War. There was one that most people don't know about, which is Sharpsburg in Antietam, Maryland. And everybody knows the other one, right? Gettysburg, right? Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So there were no Civil War battles around here, but we had people who joined the Union Army to go down and fight. And our men fought in Chancellorsville, Virginia. And so after the war was over, 1865, 30 years go by, and this young boy comes and talks to the old Union soldiers that used to hang out in this park. And that young boy's name was Stephen Crane. Now, a lot of this is hypothetical, meaning that, stories are passed down from his relatives. So we're not 100% sure that he actually wrote the Red Badge of Courage in regards to our Civil War veterans, but he did write a historical fiction novel called The Red Badge of Courage that some of us had to read in high school. I don't think they read it anymore, which was based on a young boy who signed up for the military and then got to Chancellorsville and realized this is not good. But that all happened in this park. Also, what Mrs. Farnham did is she donated in the middle that statue that we just had redone over. By the way, we got a grant from the state of New York. It cost us $35,000 to do the statue over. The statue, to purchase it back in 1898 was, I think it was like $12,000. So, but that statue is in honor of the Civil War veterans that fought from Port Jervis, the Orange Blossoms, 124th Regiment, Company F. And also on day 4, we talk about a really horrific time in our history here in Port Jervis, and I take the kids on the complete tour of Robert Lewis's capture and his dragging up Sussex Street, being hung in front of the Drew Methodist Church, being cut down, that there was a minister from the Methodist Church that tried to help stop it. They continued to drag him to where his accused attacker lived on Kingston Avenue. Unfortunately, when they got into East Main Street near where today the Assembly of God Church is, there was a tree there, and Stephen Crane's brother, William Crane, who was a judge, by the way, his sister Agnes was a school teacher here for the Port Jervis School District. But William Crane tried to come out, the police chief tried to come, and unfortunately, they hung Robert Lewis on June 2nd, 1892. He was only one of 2 hangings in New York State. One happened in Newburgh in 1865, and then Robert Lewis's. This year, we just put a marker up on the anniversary, and the kids are standing across the street. The marker is across the street, and I explained that all to them. And then we go into day 5. We make our trek up to Point Peter, but before that, we stop at the Hollow. The Hollow was created in 1865 at the end of the Civil War. It was a segregated area for people of of color to go to, and they stayed. Although from time to time there were people, Caucasian people that lived there for short periods of time, and people of color did live within the area of the city. It just was concentrated in this area. But the sad part was they were there in 1865 and 1883, they were given the eviction notice. And the reason they were given an eviction notice was because the Port Jervis Waterworks Company, not the city contracted the Port Jervis Waterworks to build 3 reservoirs. And they said, well, we can't have people so close to the reservoirs. And they actually offered to move them to where North Orange Street is today. And I can tell you, I can go all the way back, and I explain this to the kids. I go back to when I was a kid in the 1970s. I was a little boy, and my grandfather took me up to where the shooting range is on North Orange Street, and that was the second hollow. And there were still people of color that lived up there all the way up to the 1970s, including, I believe it was Mrs. Clinton's grandfather, who was friends with my grandfather, and that's why we went up there. But I show them actually where they are we're looking at the picture, to the left is where their bathing area was, and to the right is where the foundations were for some of the homes that were there. Then we make our way up to Point Peter. This is a different look that most people don't see, because they don't realize that, yes, Point Peter has the flag, but there's actually 2 mountains there. You have Point Peter for Peter Kuykendall, who I talked about, but on the left is called Mount William. Mount William is named after William Cole. William Cole is one of the first settlers in the area of Port Jervis that was the first deacon of the Dutch Reformed Church. And I believe we talked about, so these are just some of the things that we talked about. I talk about how the Fowlers, when their house was there, it was 40 acres. It went all the way from Knight Moody Funeral Home to like where the mobile station is today. There were arbitrariums, there were bathhouses, and they had tunnels. And I was waiting for them to dig for this new gym and to find one of those underground tunnels. I kept looking every day. I'll go back. Our city became a city on July 26, 1907, and a lot of people didn't know that we had what they call electric cars, but we call them trolleys. And you could jump on a trolley. Trolley went from Horns Lumber in West End, up the hill, through East Main Street, all the way to the bridge in Tri-States, then came back down, went down Jersey Avenue, and then back up Pike Street. That lasted for about 10 years, 12 years, I think it was. I took them down to Tri-State Rock, although most people think you're standing on 3 states at one time. I'm sorry to tell you, really the place you have to stand is in the middle of the river. There's actually a geological marker in the middle of the river where the 3 states exist, but it's good for show. And I talk about Laurel Grove. William Conklin, 24 years old, it was the son of Dr. John Conklin, who owned the farm there. This is the most beautiful piece of land in all of Port Jervis. Neversink River, Delaware River comes to a point, and it's a graveyard. Why is it a graveyard? Because John Conklin was killed, and his father decided to bury him on the land, and somebody complained to the state of New York, and he says, okay, I either have to exhume the body or I have to make it a graveyard, and he chose to make it a graveyard. And so that is why we have Laurel Grove Cemetery. Was your house stick-built? Was your house a modular? Or, most people don't know, there were kits. Back in the early 1900s, you could order from Sears and Roebuck. We talk about Amazon, but you could order anything from Sears and Roebuck. You could order guns, you could order food, you could order clothes, and you could even order a house that would be delivered right to the train station in Port Jervis. Where those kids are standing on the bottom picture, that is at the corner of East Main Street and Prospect. The sanatorium just burned down. That was a place for people who had issues, mental health issues. And behind it, that building in the back that's a apartment house now, was the very first hospital in Port Jervis, because most people before that were born in their house and died in their house, and their funerals were there. But my father in 1937 was born in the Port Jervis Hospital. And then, of course, the last day, you have to, after walking almost 18 miles for the whole week, they get treated to ice cream. And I want to thank Ben's Fresh because, Bobby jumps right up. It's before his time to even be working, and he says, yep, we'll treat the kids to ice cream. So, and that's our trip. So sorry it was so long. It took a lot of your time. But thank you. Any questions? No questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Kelly. Our next presentation is the Language Enrichment Secondary Summer School World Language Course with Austin Wilson.
Bonjour, hola, hello. My name's Austin Wilson, for those of you that don't know me, and I'm normally the middle school French teacher, but in the summertime I take some different roles on. This summer I was able, and I'm super proud to be the elementary enrichment language immersion teacher and also the secondary world language teacher. So today I wanted to present some of the cool, engaging, innovative content I've been able to create and things that we've been able to do in the programs, both at the secondary and elementary levels. So I'm really excited and passionate about languages, obviously, but this program, at both levels, is really inspiring to me and keeps me motivated and keeps me it just keeps me up to date with everything new in the language world, but also seeing little kids leave every single day speaking another language is really cute. And it makes me feel really good that they're communicating, right? Especially after being online for so many years, they're communicating with each other and with me, and they're always so willing to try new things. So it's really awesome. And I'm really thankful to have these opportunities because I think this is what makes Port Jervis unique, offering language immersion to 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. So it's pretty cool. So first I want to start with secondary. And I was able to teach most of these students the entire year, so I knew what their needs were, both academically, but also social and emotionally. So this summer I was able to bring in a guest from the community, because I think that's really important to create pride not only in our school, but in our community as well. So I brought in a guest speaker who owns a business, and he had a really inspiring conversation with our students, and we invited the seniors also to come and listen. And he just talked about what they needed to do to find success in their lives. And he talked about himself, and he was really open and honest about the mistakes he made in life, but how he changed them, and the importance of education, and forming genuine relationships with people. So leaving this conversation, students actually went to his business the same day, and he offered them jobs. And he said, anything you need, come talk to me and I can help you. So I thought that was really awesome because as a teacher, we always make this environment in our classroom, but I think it's also equally important to do this in the community as well. So I was able to do that with our secondary students. And then also, with the help of our amazing IT department, we were able to use some of our new technology. So I was able to use ZSpace in the classroom. And I thought of myself as a high schooler. I said, what would get me here at 7 o'clock in the morning to learn French? And I had a hard time thinking of some things, but we incorporated ZSpace, and the kids thought that was the most amazing thing ever, right? ZSpace is a program that makes what you're looking at seem like it's coming out of the screen. So you can manipulate things, it looks like it's 3D. And we created a maze, and we then built the maze in the classroom, and it was really cool and collaborative. The kids worked on communication skills and team building skills. It was really cool. And I'm extremely proud of these students because they've been in this class they were placed in this class for many reasons. And they're coming every single day, and they're motivated to do the work. They're engaged in the content. And it makes me feel good knowing that they're going to be getting their credit and they can graduate high school with this credit now. And then we move on to elementary school. So this is the part that's really fun for me because it's different, right? I teach 8th graders normally, now I get to teach younger kids. And it's really important to expose students to languages at a really young age. Around here, we tend to expose them later on in their educational career, but this opportunity allows us to expose them to the languages earlier on, which is really crucial for the language development. So in my class for language immersion, we do some Spanish, we do some French. This summer, actually, we dove into Chinese and Korean also, and that was the kids bringing that to me, which was really cool. And we did a lot of stuff. So we gamified our content. We used GimKit to do some Spanish numbers. The kids love GimKit, and again, IT helped with that too. They were able to get us a subscription for that. It's really awesome, really engaging, and the kids, if you walk by, they're yelling, they're screaming, they're chanting. It's a really fun game. We also made some snails when we were in the French unit. And we talked about how that's a delicacy and you can eat them, but instead of eating them at 9 o'clock in the morning, we made snails and we raced them in the gym. And it was nice to see friendly competition between all the grade levels. We had a winner.
Still going on.
Yeah, right. And it was just a really good time, and the kids were really excited, and hopefully they brought those home and taught their siblings how to make them and race them as well. And then one activity that we did this summer that I changed up a little bit was hand puppets, and this was a really cool activity for me because I was able to witness a lot of skills from my students. Obviously the language piece, but also teamwork and collaboration and communication and all these things that are really crucial to our whole student. So this was an interdisciplinary activity. So we had the arts and crafts teacher help us. But students, after learning about animals in French, they were asked to make a hand puppet of one of the animals they chose. And then they had to create a dialogue in French with a partner. They had to make a background with the arts and crafts teacher on Google Slides. And then they had to present in front of kindergarten through 6th grade enrichment in front of the cafeteria using a microphone. And to many that could seem scary, but they came up, they were so brave, they were confident, they used different voices and they had different animations, and it was really cool, it was really cute to see. And I have a little video to show you 2 students who did it, but I wasn't impressed with their language skills, and I'm gonna touch on that in a second. I was impressed with something which I think is way more important. But this is these are some examples of some of the puppets they made. They did an awesome job. The next day after we did this, kids came in and they made some at home, and they were trying to speak French in different accents, and it was really cute. And then the kindergartners made them a couple weeks later, so it was cool. So this is the video, and you can't really hear the audio that well. So I don't know if you noticed that, but there was a moment where the one kid didn't know what line to read, and the other student actually helped him through that. And I thought that was really impressive to see. That although they were having fun and they were in character, they still were able to help each other through that process. And I saw that with all the groups that came up. So I would just like to say thank you for allowing us to have such programs. And I think it's a really awesome opportunity for our students. And I can't wait to see what our world language program looks like when these guys get into middle school and high school, and now with the Seal of Literacy. I think it's really impressive what we're doing here. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Next is public comment. We have 2 people signed up. I would just like to remind the speakers that they're not allowed to speak about particular employees or students, health and medical issues, discipline, hiring and firing of individuals, labor negotiations, or litigation. With that, our first speaker is Mr. George Patterson, and you have 5 minutes. Jason, would you mind timing, please? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is George Patterson, Jr. I'm a parent and a taxpayer. About a month or so ago, I attended a school board meeting with some concerns and questions in regards to security. And since then, I met with Mr. Rydell and Mr. Tim at Thompson Street. I attended a safety meeting here in the library. I also emailed Mr. Rydell on July 23rd, but I guess he has other plans. He has not responded to that yet. And I still can't figure out why the district doesn't seem interested in increasing the amount of armed personnel in the buildings. This is a real concern of mine. My children go here, my wife works here, and I'm very passionate about it. So I looked into the financial end of it, and I mean, don't hold me to these numbers. This is just roughly what I can figure out. It seems the district spends about $200,000 per year to pay the Port Rivers Police Department and Tappan Deer Park officers, which, by the way, I'm extremely grateful to both departments for them working with the school to get those officers here. So when you equate that to the budget, that is less than 1/4 of 1%. And it doesn't seem sufficient to me. So in my opinion, the students, the staff, and the parents deserve more than less than 0.25%. And I look forward to continuing this conversation with Dr. Bell when he becomes superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ann Worship.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hi. So I came tonight to bring up a policy that, the first one I'm going to bring up is 8330, Objection to Curriculum and Instructional Materials and Controversial Issues. This one already went through the 2 readings, I believe. So I wanted to, of course I'm not going to read it, it's very long, but I'm going to bring up, I'm going to read a paragraph here. The superintendent will designate a review committee to investigate and evaluate the challenged instructional material. The committee will include, among others, the school library media specialist from the building where the objection originated and the building principal. The committee will evaluate the challenged material according to the district's criteria for the evaluation and selection of instructional materials. One question I had is, I see who is on the committee. I know it will be, it will include, among others, school library media specialists, building principal, and is there a community person on the committee, I wondered. The other thing I want to read is the review committee will submit a written report of the results of their review to the superintendent within 60 days of receipt of the formal written objection. So I thought that 60 days is very long. Why does it have to be 60 days? I realize that the intent of the policy isn't for the committee to take 60 days, and hopefully they wouldn't. It has to fall within that time. But with everybody's busy world, the busy schedule, if you have 60 days, the chances that you might take it, or maybe meetings canceled, so many things can happen. 60 days is a really long time, especially when the controversial issue stands and continues to go on while you're in appeal. So I'm asking if that can be reviewed and possibly put a 30 days on it. And then the other thing that I wanted to ask is, if subsequent objections after an appeal are issued for the same material within a period of 5 years, the superintendent, it says it can deny the objection based on the previous review and decision. And I just wondered, why is it locked into, for 5 years? They can deny the appeal based on the last decision. They don't have to. They can or cannot, may or may not. But 5 years locked in. So that didn't make any sense to me. And the 60 days was excessive, I thought. So this is for a policy 8330. And I know that they are available to the public on the internet. So people are interested in reviewing the policies that come through. And then the other one was, I don't know if this one went through the 2 readings, 3160. This one is equity, inclusivity, and diversity in education. Did that one go through the 2 readings? I'm not sure.
I'd have to look back at that.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, I'll just read a little piece of it. This is another one that has a committee. The superintendent or designee will ensure that curriculum and instructional materials reflect our shared commitment to educational equity. Curriculum and instructional materials for all grades shall reflect diversity and include a range of perspectives and experiences, particularly those of historically underrepresented groups. Curriculum material shall be reviewed and examined for bias on a regular basis. Class instructional activities and extracurricular programs shall be designed and implemented to provide opportunities for cross-cultural and cross-racial interactions that foster respect for diversity and inclusivity. And there sounds like a lot of good stuff in there too, but then I also worry about, what about, controversial, what about issues that are controversial? There's another committee, is that the same committee that is going to, I guess each building will probably have their own. But there's many people, with what's going on in our nation now, and all of the talks about the sexual orientation is one example of controversial.
Ms. Orson, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. Well, I can never locate you. The voice sounds like.
All the way out again.
Thank you. So anyway, so that this is for all grades. This is makes me think of what Florida went through. With the K through three. We're not teaching any of our. We're not bringing any of that into the classroom. So we're hearing all of this out there, and I always wonder what's going on in our district. I don't have kids. All my kids graduated and are, I have grandkids now. They don't go to this school, but of course I'm interested in what are we doing, and so those are. I would appreciate it when these policies come through if you could do more talking about it. Most times it's just a number on, and a lot of them are like kind of boring. But these were actually policies that I was watching for. Like what's going on in our schools with all the talk going on in the nation. And these happen to be two of them back to back. Controversial issues and how we're going to handle them. And then you have the process in here, what a teacher has to do, and then the materials. And I know you're going to have review them, and do you have community on these committees? So I think that's it. I think I'm done, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, our administrative reports. Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Rydell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Onfrey. So just wanted to, I know this is not meant for a back and forth, but just to kind of address a few of the things that Annie mentioned there. And Annie, I know you emailed me. I think you emailed me some of those very questions, and I did reply to you.
You did.
And so just wanted to get to the point that the policies are general guidelines of which we then develop regulations or procedures within our district. All that being said, we do have a policy committee, and it meets once a month, and it is a very well-run committee, and that does have community membership on it. And I'm certain that if you were interested in potentially being a part of that committee in the future, you could maybe meet with Dr. Bell.
Can community attend, not be a member of it, just attend and listen to the chatter back and forth, not participate?
Why don't we set up a meeting, Annie, and we can talk about what is involved with being on the policy committee, and I'm pretty confident I can really pique your interest in being a part of it, just knowing what I know of you, okay? So regarding those other committees, there are different committees that are referenced in those two policies. The one falls in line with our education committee, and the other would be a committee that is developed in response to an objection or a concern about the materials. So I hope that answers that. But again, let's schedule a meeting and we can get deeper into your concerns. Another piece I just wanted to mention was that many of the policies have a genesis in not only what's happening currently, what are needs of a school district, but also there's a service that many school districts subscribe to, which is called Erie One BOCES. Their program that they have, in which they will send out monthly and quarterly reports as far as recommended policy changes and verbiage. And from there, we'll work as a committee as well as consult our attorneys. So I just wanted to get into that. I got further into the weeds than I wanted to, but I know you're passionate about this, Andy, and I just wanted to address that. Regarding the first speaker, I'll apologize if I did miss an email. I will check to see if I did or if Mr. Tim did. But we did meet with that individual who previously spoke at the meeting. We met with him in my office. We also, he did attend the safety meeting, and we did follow up on some of the things that he did mention, of which some I won't get into in a public format because it has to do with the safety of our schools. But I did meet with Chief Warden following those meetings to talk about some of the potential. So I'll be happy to brief the board on those and where we stand with things currently. But there's the major one I would say is in progress based on working it out with the police department. So, and with that, on a much more positive note, summer school's wrapping up, and we're excited about the programs that have taken place throughout this summer. Mr. Wilson, great presentation as always. Mr. Decker as well. Learned a lot tonight, Mr. Decker. But Mr. Wilson, really appreciate your passion and really just engaging the students in foreign language and like no one I've ever seen before. And so our summer school wraps up this week, and then we have Regents exams next week, the 16th and 17th, followed by our August graduation ceremony, where we're looking at seeing some students cross that finish line that they worked very hard for. So that's my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Radon. Next is Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Dr. Natasha Walton.
Good evening. I just want to thank our presenters tonight. Great job. And Mr. Idell didn't believe me when I said, yeah, Mr. Wilson is using Z-Space. He said, what is the science? I said, believe me, he's using it. It's incredible. He was doing directions. I told him before he scheduled his field trip, he had to have a rationale, and he came up with the most incredible project of teaching kids directions in their language. And it was just incredible, the innovation that came out of something that we didn't anticipate. So I just wanted to throw that in Mr. Rydell's face. And congratulations to all of our finishers for another wonderful summer school program. I know it's been a very warm summer, to say the least, but kids have been coming. It's been great. Teachers, thank you so much and administrators for all your work. We are working with each of the buildings on our return to school coming up very, very soon. And then we're going to have some communication coming out about open houses from our building principals, so stay tuned. We're just wrapping up some of the fine tuning of classroom assignments and schedules and so forth. So that will be coming from our building principals very shortly. And also in our office with our building principals and administrators, we're working on new teacher orientation, which is on the 29th and 30th, as well as our superintendent conference days on September 1st and 2nd, with opening just around the corner. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Assistant Superintendent for Business, Mr. John Penn.
Good evening. Thank you. A little project update like I promised I would. The general contractors, Unimac, they're performing light demolition in Area C, removing doors and casework. They've started excavation and pouring concrete for footings, as was mentioned earlier. The site construction, those are the guys that had that large hole in front of the school. They've put that hole back and are working on the bus loop right now. The electric company, contractor, Unity, they're actually putting up temporary power this upcoming week. Our hazmat company, United Safety, they're performing abatement in the gym and locker rooms, and they're continuing to remove stairwell 2. And the last two, mechanical and plumbing, which is CD Strain, are scheduled next week to start demolition on the boilers and hot water heaters. So that's our update for this evening.
Thank you very much. Next are consent agenda items. Item A is the minutes of the regular business meeting of July 19th. B, CSE minutes from 7:13, 7:14, 7:15, 7:19, and 7:21. Item C is the request to dispose of outdated electrical equipment. Item D is the request to declare excess and dispose of textbooks, both Fort Rivers High School and HBE. Item E is the Treasurer's financial report for July 2022. May I have a motion on those, please? Second?
Second.
Flo? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next are personnel employment items. Item A, retirement, support staff position 70, teacher aide. Item B is resignation, vacancy of number 2421, coaching girls varsity soccer. Item C is a resignation, vacancy 2421, coaching girls varsity assistant soccer coach. Item D is a resignation, vacancy number 2421, coaching girls modified basketball coach. Item E is the resignation, vacancy number 2421, coaching girls modified basketball coach. Item F, resignation, instructional staff, position 284, elementary teacher. Item G is resignation, support staff, position 2847, school monitor. Item H, resignation to accept a new position, support staff, position 547, school monitor. Item I, resignation to accept a new position, support staff, position 3697, school monitor. Item J is the appointment, vacancy 2421, curriculum coordinators, co-curriculum coordinators, coaching appointments for the 2022-23 school year. Item K is support staff, vacancy 2458, position 2823, probationary, teacher aide. Item L is the appointment, support staff, vacancy 2464, position 377, probationary, teacher aide. Item M, appointment, instructional staff, vacancy 2466, position 353, probationary science teacher. Item N, appointment, instructional staff, vacancy 2469, position 214, probationary elementary education teacher. Item O, appointment, instructional staff, temporary secondary summer school teacher. Item P is the appointment, professional non-teaching substitute, registered professional school nurse. Item Q, increase of hours, support staff, vacancy 2474, position 547, permanent school monitor. Item R, increase of hours, support staff, position 2604, permanent school monitor. Item S, amendment to employment contracts, ASI, Natasha Walkowitz, and Assistant Superintendent for Business, Mr. John Kim. Item T, amendment to board docs, personnel agenda item, June 21st, 2022. Item U, amendment to board docs, personnel agenda item from July 19th, 2022. Item D, amendment to board docs, personal agenda item, July 19th, 2022. Item W, amendment to board docs, personnel agenda item from July 19th, 2022. Have any questions? May I have a motion on that?
I'll move.
Any? Second, Flo? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8 are action items. First, item A, health and wellness contract with Wallsburg Central School District, 21-22 school year. Have a motion on that?
I'll move it.
Moved by Debbie. Second? Bill Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B is to change the previously adopted 2022-23 school student calendar. Mr. Rydell, would you please tell us what that change is?
Sure, it's one revision. The original calendar that was adopted by the Board of Education had November 1st as a superintendent's conference day. And to align with the OU BOCES calendar, we're going to move it to November 8th, which is where we should have originally placed it. And so it'll be in line with most of the Orange County schools.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions? Have a motion, please? Moved by Flo, second by Mike Huckleberry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C is the attendance at Port Jervis volleyball team training camp from August 25th to the 27th. Have a motion on that?
I'll move it.
Moved by Debbie Lash. Second, Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D is the increase in the employee benefits liability reserve fund with the amount of calculated compensation absences at June 30th, 2022. I have a motion on that.
I'll move it.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item B is the EPEX energy purchasing resolution. I have a motion on that, please.
I'll move it.
Judy, second. Well, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item F is the agreement between the Port Jervis City School District and the GWDH LLC. Have a motion on that?
I'll move it.
Second, Annie? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next are board members' comments. Absolutely, please do.
I apologize, I just wanted to do this before the board commented because we do have a couple of individuals that are present this evening that were appointed. My pleasure to introduce Zachary Barrett. Zach, you don't mind standing up? He's joining the middle school team, science teacher, so science is wonderful, so I look forward to the great things you'll be doing in the science classrooms for our students. And we're also very fortunate that we have Jessica Cody, who's just appointed this evening. Jessica will be joining the team at ASK, and we're just very excited that both of you, first of all, took time to be here. That does say a lot, but really welcome you to the team at Port Jervis. Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Drago. Next, the board member comments. Annie?
I want to congratulate the 26 Port Jervis Police Department Youth Leadership Academy recruits who graduated on August the 5th from the program. The program was conducted at the Port Jervis High School. The police department did a wonderful job running the academy. And I also, the National Night Out was a great turnout, and many local vendors from the Tri-States area was there, and they made over 5,000 hot dogs. Go well. And then also on August the 20th is our Italian Festival, and it's at the Orange Square Park, and it's from 4 to 9, and it's free. And I want to thank Dr. John Bell and administration in coming up and addressing a plan and making sure that no student will be attending the middle school. As I always have said, it is not educationally sound in having people attend the middle school while construction is happening. I understand things will be tight in the meantime, but in the long run, it will pay off. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Mr. Harris?
My comments are directly to Kelly and Austin. This is the reason that our students are excelling. These two teachers right here, the passion that they show, and I know that firsthand from being in the middle school for so many years, when I could sneak away and I had some time, I'd stand outside Kelly's room just to listen to him teach. And I remember when Austin was student teaching, and the interaction between him and the students, and this is Barbanel, and then he went away back to school and then came back. I knew that by you coming back here, this would be a great asset to our program. So I just want to thank you two for the lessons tonight, and I look forward to working with you for many more years.
Mike?
I have nothing to say.
Okay. Flo?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentations tonight. They were spot on. I really enjoyed them. Coming next month, as you all know, this is our September 11th service at the town hall. This year it is a Sunday, but we will hold it on a Sunday, September 11th, 8:30 in the morning. You all are welcome. You know what? It's the 21st year. It's like we will never forget what happened that day, and to have you all join us that morning to do what we have and to pay homage to all our loved ones that we've lost, friends, neighbors. I just can't keep going on, but every year we will be there as long as I am, and I invite you all to come up. And I know I reached out to the school for seeing if that's going to work, and hopefully, because it's a Sunday, I know. And also, another thing that's very dear to my heart, the honor flight. We're in full steam. October 8th is our flight out of Stewart. So we will be doing the Hudson Valley Honor Flight to bring our veterans to Washington, D.C. for the day. And if anybody's been near or heard or saw pictures, films, and I believe the veterans have come here and the students met them, and you just can't imagine taking veterans to Washington, D.C. and for the day from 5:30 in the morning to 9, 10 o'clock at night, and they have more energy than we do. You know, when we get off the bus, it's extraordinary. So hopefully, I believe I've already asked for, we can try to get together a couple busloads of kids. Sports, the teams usually come out. They've been until COVID hit. But to see this, I would I would remind you every time I'm here that September 11th is coming upon us, and now October 8th. And I would really appreciate it. Just spread the word. Just spread the word out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Flo. Kara?
I also just want to thank Austin and Kelly for the presentations and the amazing opportunities that you give our kids. My girls were part of the program in Enrichment this summer, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. They learned some new words. Sophie can't stop saying blue in French, bleu. Everything she sees that's blue, and what a great opportunity. And Kelly, I learned so much, thank you. I would definitely sign up if you change that to a Segway tour instead of a walking tour. Sign me up, but it's wonderful. Thank you for these amazing opportunities that you give our students.
Thank you, Kara. Jason?
I have no comment.
Okay, Judy? Debbie?
I just would like to congratulate all the 2022 Scholar Athletes who were recognized, along with their coaches, their families, and their peers. They were named to School of Excellence this year, which I think is a great accomplishment. That's why we're here as board members. We're here for the education of our kids. And I also want to thank Kelly. I learned a lot. I grew up in Cutterback Mill. I learned a lot. I had no idea. And Austin, I knew you were going to do great things when I worked with you when you were in high school here. So thanks for your presentation this evening and what you do for our kids. And last but not least, thanks to everyone involved in the summer school program here. The kids, from what I've heard, the kids really enjoyed it. We have more kids that are going to cross the finish line now. Thanks to everybody involved. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your summer. It'll be going by quickly. And that's it for me.
Okay, Debbie, thank you very much. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion for executive session with the board with an invite to Dr. John Bell. Moved by Flo. Oh, dates to remember, thank you. Dates to remember, hold that thought.
You know, I'm sorry, I remember when I missed that and people were on the TV and everybody all together, remember? All together, folks, people on TV. Memories, they'll be with us.
Yes. Dates, remember Thursday, August 11th, kindergarten screening for new ASK and HBE register, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the ASK. Thursday, August 18th, secondary summer school graduation, 9 a.m. at the Port Jervis High School cafeteria. Thursday, August 25th, summer freshman orientation, HBE kindergarten, pre-K orientation, 9 a.m. to noon, 6 p.m. to 7, at Port Jervis High School and HBE. Tuesday, August 30th, kindergarten orientation, 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at ASK. Now with that, I'll like to entertain. Moved by Flo.
Second it.
Second by Bill Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
And there will be no action taken.